Okay. I think I got my mic working, guys. Let me just switch cameras here. Actually, never mind. My camera's not connected there. Okay. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's having a great Tuesday. Uh, Exciting day today. We have a few deals that we've been looking at that I'm going to be able to share with you today. I like to try to keep these sessions like easy, so we'll be able to go over a couple of easy projects that we have available and also some more, let's just say, advanced projects. In this case, I would actually consider today's project that we're going to talk about to be a little bit on the intermediate side. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of something for everybody. Um, so we'll chat about a couple things as we go through, as we let people roll in today and we'll go over a few things. And again, just so everybody knows, and as a reminder, if anybody has any questions, do feel free to drop in the chat. I do want to make sure that in these sessions, I am answering your questions. Okay, so this is for Canadians who are looking to bridge into U.S. investing, and why we're doing this. What are some of the prospects that we're looking at, and how they differ from some of the things that we otherwise check out here in Canada. So, with that, we want to have a bit of understanding of, okay, like what are some of the differences that we're really contending with, and why aren't we choosing properties that are in Canada, and why are we looking at the US? What is it that's so appealing about it? And how feasible or viable is it for many of us? So we're going to talk about all of that in a nutshell. So here, I'm just going to type in the chat to get started a few things that I want to talk about. So today we're going to talk a little bit about um, what happened recently. Recent inflation rate. Okay, if any of you is paying attention, real if you're into real estate, interest rates, inflation rates, and state of the economy is something that you should generally be paying attention to. So I do like to follow that. Inflation rate recently went down a little bit. We're also going to be talking about some of the common reasons why some of the challenges of the Canadian economy right now. Challenges in Canadian economy. And then we're going to be looking at current deals we are working on. And in the US, obviously. And then what else we're going to talk about? Hold on, let me admit a few other people here. And then we're going to talk about a few easy deals that are available for everyone else to buy. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few of these things, and we're going to also go over some frequently asked questions. Okay. All right, that's what we're going to be going over today. If anybody wants to add to that or wants to know any other things, somebody already typed something. Can liras be used to invest? Okay, we're going to get into some stuff like that. Okay. Oh dear, why is that happening? It's okay, shouldn't be a problem. Okay. All right, I'm going to share a screen with you guys, and we're going to go over a few things right now. So again, remember, if you have questions, by all means, feel free to ask them. Let me go into slideshow mode, and let me go into share screen mode. Da-da-da-da. All right, here we go. So very quickly, just as a quick introduction for anybody who has been here before, we'll go over a couple of things basically in the beginning here. So we are the property houses. We are talking about buying, selling, investing in Canada and in the US. But right now for these sessions, our main focus is investing in the US. So we're going to talk a little bit about why we're going to be going into the US. But before we get started, I do want everyone to first tell me, are you new? Or are you existing, or have you been with us for a while? Basically, for anybody who's new, I want you to type a one in the chat, and I want you to tell me one question that you have about investing in the U.S. If you are a repeat person who's coming to these Tuesday sessions, I want you to tell me why you're here and what do you think it is that's holding you back from making your move into the US? And is there something that you're finding yourself questioning, or is it that something is not working out for you, or is there just a roadblock that you're generally facing? I want to hear what it is that's holding you back. And if you're new here, what is it that's interesting you, and what are some basic questions that you might have? Okay. All right. Now, we're going to get into, usually from here, I will want to get into some frequently asked questions, but I'm going to first talk about a couple of things that we've been noticing. So and while you guys also type in your questions, we'll also go over a few things, okay? So a couple of things recently. So just so you guys know, inflation rate did recently come down. It went down to 1.7% here, over from what was it, 2.3% that it was previously. And people thought that it was actually going to be a little bit lower than that for various reasons. With everything that's going on right now, people were expecting it to be, I think, at around 1.6, but it came in a little bit higher. But we still are quite well under the target inflation rate. And there is a lot of speculation going on in Canada as to whether or not this is actually where we should be. And I frequently mention the fact that, at least in my opinion, the way that inflation works in Canada has a lot to do with oil. So if you want to know where inflation is going, generally speaking, if you look at what's happening with oil, gasoline, you'll be able to see how our economy is likely to react. And the reason for that is also because, generally speaking, everything is quite reliant on oil, and the way that our economy works, everything seems to be affected in a cascading manner. I mean, no matter what it is that you look at, everything is reliant on oil. So if you're trying to time the market, which I don't necessarily recommend, you want to see where it is that you think oil is going. Okay. Now, the whole thing about this that I find very interesting is that um, when it comes to the inflation rate in Canada, I do believe that we're actually well below the target rate. And the reason for that is because interest rates Bank of Canada interest rates are still actually quite high. I mean, people are still pulling out mortgages at over 6%. And that is one of the things that's actually pushing up the cost of housing to be so incredibly high. I mean, if we look even at some of the Canadian statistics when it comes to rent values, like rents over here, like we're still seeing averages of $2,800, $2,600 on average for rents. And so, as real estate investors, when we're looking at this, the affordability aspect for the tenants, it actually becomes quite strenuous. And even at these numbers, we still cannot buy cash flow positive properties in Canada. So if we can't buy cash flow positive properties in Canada and rents are still, relatively speaking, outrageously high, how is this really supposed to work? And this is one of the reasons why a lot of Canadians are looking at other opportunities in other places like the US, is because when you look at these numbers, these are quite expensive. Everybody's complaining about how expensive it is, but we still can't make ends meet. And now, what's one of the counter pushing factors of why rents are actually so high? Are rents high because properties are high, or are property values so expensive because of rents? Like, which one is it here? The fact that real estate investors, homeowners, also have these mortgages that are so high, it means that somebody has to be paying for them, and real estate investors will typically pass on these costs to the tenant population. So it is a combination of the fact that properties are expensive, unaffordable, and interest rates are high. That is also what is continuing to push rents up. And in recent announcement, I believe there were multiple people that said that the goal here is not actually to bring real estate values down. The goal is to actually keep real estate values more or less the same by trying to build more housing and stimulate the market. The point is that we may not necessarily see real estate in Canada go up drastically over the next little while. It's likely to go up, but it might be a very slow ride. Okay? Okay, great. Let's carry on from here. And we're also going to start reading in on some people's questions. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Okay. Let's see. IRS, CRA, taxes, and cost of LLC. Okay. So let's hop really quickly into some frequently asked questions. Here we are over here. Okay, so some frequently asked questions that we're going to go into is, can Canadians buy real estate in the US? Okay, so first of all, yes, you can buy real estate in the US. I see some people asking questions about taxes and cost of the LLC and stuff like that. So the thing to note here really is that yes, you can buy properties in Canada. The main thing that you're going to need here is you're going to need your corporate structure, US bank account, and you can get all these things, and your EIN number. You can get all this stuff set up with a cross-border accountant, okay? And can you get mortgages in Canada? Answer to that is yes. You're typically looking at 70 to 30%, a 70-30 loan to value, and you need to get yourself set up with your legal structure, okay? Your legal structure is what you're asking for when it comes to the LLC. Now, there are some very cost-effective ways to do it. You can do it yourself, or you can have it set up for you. If you get it set up for you, you are going to be paying a little bit more. And then if you want to, and then depending on how you want to get it set up for your taxes, this is where, sorry, I'm distracted because I have to let people in while I'm doing this. Uh, if you want to get this set up for things like double taxation or anything like that, you have to have a more elaborate corporate structure set up where you're going to have to pay a little bit more for it. So just for perspective on this, when we got our corporate structure set up to avoid double taxation, we had to get this done by we ended up paying $6,000 for it. Okay. And then the maintenance on it annually ended up being a little bit more expensive. But the thing is that if you're not planning on being very aggressive in the first year, I would just say to get yourself set up with a basic corporate structure and just get a C corp going. And with that, you'll be able to just buy property. Yes, you will be paying. Yes, you will be subject to double taxation. However, depending on how your taxes are actually working, you can probably write off. And in practice, we have seen a lot of people write off the vast majority of this. So this is going to be more of a personal tax situation where it will be case by case. So I don't want to give you uh, like the wrong information here. Don't like to say it depends, and I don't like to say talk to an accountant, but you should definitely do that. Nonetheless, most of the time, if you're planning on coming in and buying just like one property, maybe two, my opinion is that a C corp, basic like a basic LC will be enough. Okay. Let's see. Now, another question that we get all the time is where should I invest? And the answer to that still is it depends, but we also like to see what is your goal. We do see that we have had a lot of people from last session ask us about places like Flint, Michigan. And the reason for that is because places are even cheaper than where we are looking in places like Cleveland, Ohio. So we have been talking a lot about Cleveland, Ohio, because properties over there, we're able to find turnkey cash flow properties right on the MLS, which means that if you are even remotely a more elaborate real estate investor, you will be able to find properties that at even better deals than that. Now, we talk about things like with the 1% rule and how that used to be the standard. And in Canada, you can't necessarily buy properties following the 1% rule, but you can definitely build them in Canada. But now we have to be very savvy. We have to be very resourceful in order to make that happen. And for any of you who are considering even things like house flipping in Canada, it's very expensive, right? Like it's very expensive to do these burrs or these or actually pour money, especially in today's day and age where money's actually quite tight, to pour money into these properties. So, and then if you're going to burr it, you're now incurring more debt at such high interest rates. It's really hard to make things work these days. But in the US, if you do these, the properties are cost effective enough, and I'll show you this. The properties are cost effective enough that you can do this. So where should you invest? Right now, we find places like Cleveland, Ohio to be quite suitable for the vast majority of Canadians in the situations we are facing. It's actually hitting the sweet spot in terms of like bang for buck value and also cash flow objectives. We do find that the majority of people that want to shift into the US market seem to be having cash flow based concerns. C class neighborhoods is something that we generally lean towards, and you will want to have an understanding of different classes of neighborhoods. A class, B class, C class, what does it mean? The basic gist of it is that you want to stay away from D class neighborhoods. What's the next question here? How much money do I need to get started? Well, the whole thing with that is that if you want to get started investing US, you can do it with as little as $20,000. And I have a very sweet deal that I'm going to show you in a little bit where that's going to reflect this. You can get started for as little as $20,000. 50 to 60, you're actually quite comfortable. You have a few more options. At about $100,000, you can do quite a bit. And the reason why we like this is because you can actually buy properties that are fully off market, and you can buy them under $100,000 and renovate them into $100,000 and then pull out money. Now, why is that important? The reason why this is important is because if you're looking at properties that are sub 100,000, generally speaking, they're harder to finance. So you typically need strings attached. So we don't really like to say that it's a reliable financing option, but under 100,000, that is where the money is. There's a lot of real estate investors that we've been meeting, especially more and more recently, who like to buy these properties at like $20,000. Here, okay, let me give you a quick crash course, guys, on how, if you want to flip properties in the US, it's actually the math is so simple, and it goes like this. You need to buy a property, $20,000 or $30,000. I'm going to show you like where you can see deals like this. $20,000 or $30,000, you're buying a property. any full gut, any full gut on a property, you're gonna spend $60,000. 60,000 USD, you can gut and renovate almost any property, any normal house, single family home. Okay, $60,000. Okay, so what are you in it for? You're in it for $80,000. How much you need to sell it for? You need to sell that for about 120. At 120, you're going to pay about $10,000 in additional fees. You're going to make $30,000. That's almost 50% on your money. Okay, it'll take you about 3, 4 months. Okay, that's the math. And for a lot of people, there's a lot of guys I know, but I'm sure there's a lot of people in this group. Tell me actually, you know what? I don't want to ask too many complicated questions right now, actually, but I know a lot of people can do that type of thing. A lot of people are sitting on a line of credit. You know, I know people are thinking of buying a car, and then with that type of with that type of flexibility, you don't even have bills, right? You don't have a mortgage to carry. You can do that type of math. Okay, so the point is that these are kind of like the tiers of what it is that you're operating at, and where and how much money you need. Can you do more? Can you do less? You can do a lot of different things. All right, let's see here. What kind of cash flow can I expect? Okay, single family homes, the cash flow 200 to $700. Duplexes to fourplexes. This is still in the residential class, 400 to 1200, depending on on how much you stretch it. Do you build it? Or are you spending money on it? Larger multifamilies, honestly, you ought to be doing $1,800 plus. I do have a larger multifamily I'm going to be showcasing today. Let's see. And then we have your dream team that you're going to build. Obviously, contractors, realtors, property managers, title companies, inspectors, anything like that. Okay. All right. So I think that is most of the stuff. Now, basically, if anybody's having concerns about this thing, some of the doubts that we hear people talk about all the time is risky. I have a full-time job, I have kids. What if I lose my money? What is it that is actually worrying you? If you have any things that does concern you about investing in the US, let me know what it is. Um, we hear everything, and like a lot of the concerns are very valid, but I do feel that a lot of the times we make it out to be a lot worse or a lot more potentially hazardous than it actually is. So honestly, when it comes to all this stuff, we understand that everybody has obligations, but the truth is what we are here for and what we want to do is we want to be able to kind of reduce all the noise that you will be seeing in some of these deals. We want to make sure that we can help you look at deals that are going to be profitable, make sure that you buy in areas that match who you are and what type of properties you want to be owning and managing if you are managing them, and most importantly, how to actually make money on these. Because while the US market can be quite lucrative, there are a lot of nuances that we have found that can really burn people. Like what types of areas you should invest in is actually quite key, where the whole adage of, location, location, location really plays true when you have these artificial lines that are separating neighborhoods, where in one neighborhood you're in a zip code where money is being spent, and in the other area you're not in that zip code anymore, and that area is not benefiting from the taxes of the other neighborhoods. So these are all things that you need to pay attention to. Okay, double taxes. Do I have to pay taxes in the US and Canada? Depending on how you set yourself up, yes. Single family home, duplex. So what is this one? Oh yeah, what should my first property be? Honestly, single family homes are duplexes, stable areas, low maintenance. C plus areas, in my opinion, are the way to go. Let's keep going here. And I think we're almost done with this. What's a good deal? What is a sweet spot? We're going to get into a few of these things right now. So I'll start showcasing some of these deals that we are currently working on, and you can ask questions about them. Okay, let's see here. Da, da, da. Okay, so recently I believe we did talk. We may have mentioned this one briefly. I can't remember if I talked about this one last week, but this one, if I did, then you'll be able to see the development of this deal. So this one was very appealing to us, and we actually went and took a look at it. So I'll show you, like you guys can see the address and everything because it doesn't really matter right now. Okay, so there's this property we're looking at, and it's finally tied up and secured. This is a 7 unit side by side property. So like 7 units, kind of like row houses, and it's being locked up for $490,000 side by side, just like this. Okay. Now, at $490,000, the question is, does this perform? Will this make money? Now, just for the perspective here, it has this parking area over here, and every unit is essentially like its own house. Now, it's technically each one of these it has 3 bedrooms. And the thing that we found very appealing about this is that currently it's renting for an average of $1,000 now every each unit. So it's bringing in about $7,000 a month. Actually, the rent rolls are somewhere here. Let me take a look at it. Uh, so market rents, they're saying it's 1220. Current rents, this is what it is. Let's see, what are they bringing in? $6,447 a month is what they're currently bringing in. Now, the thing that's appealing about this, if some of you don't know, is that this one has Section 8 vouchers. And with the Section 8 vouchers, you're able to significantly lift the rents. Now, when I talk about significantly lift the rents, actually, let me see if I can pull that up here somewhere. I want to show you guys what lifting the rents actually looks like. Let me see here. And let's see. Okay. So yeah, something like this. So Section 8, yeah, oh, I did show this to you guys before. So yeah, for any of you who were here last week, I would have already gone over this, but 3 bedrooms going for $1,468, okay? And the thing that we're going to do with this property here is we're going to essentially add closets into the 3 bedrooms, and the 3 bedrooms will now be recognized by Section 8. So the whole thing about Section 8 is that if you have, let's say, a 3 bedroom house, but only 2 of those bedrooms have closets, they won't recognize them. Or if one of them doesn't have a window, or if one of them doesn't have like a door, it has to meet the criteria of what they consider a bedroom, and then you'll be able to lift the rents. Now, if you lift the rents to 1,400, where I believe they have their own projections here, this is something new that we got. So if I didn't show you this last time, it's because we didn't have it. Um, but this is the actual performance. This is the true rent roll. This is the true utilities that they're facing every month. Now, if you notice, there's actually no common utility. There's no common utility. So their monthly utility bill is 830, sorry, 412, $416 a month. So the actual performance of this property is actually quite good. And part of the reason is because if you're looking at this thing doesn't have, because it's like each one is like its own unit. This thing doesn't even have any common space to be paying for. So the tenants are paying for all of their own stuff, and it actually makes your cash flow a lot better. But what type of cash flow are we actually looking at? Well, let's look at it a little bit more. Performa. So let's see, that's what it's currently at. And this is some of the stuff that they believe that it needs to be. These are some of the things that they believe need to be repaired. So the thing about this is that if you wanted to finance this property, you can actually do an ARV finance where you can finance based on the future value, and you can essentially get something that claws in. So you can get a mortgage where you will slowly start to get paid as you do the improvements, as long as you put together a plan that they can agree to justify why you believe these properties are going up to be or why the property is going to be valued the way it is. So just to get you an idea of what the property looks like, let me pull pictures up here that are worth looking at. I'm going to answer your questions in just a little bit, guys. Okay, so let's take a look at it on the inside. I want to see something that actually really showcases what it actually looks like. Seems to be, I don't know why that's loading so slow. Okay, so this is what the property looks like. As you can see, it is in like, it's not like these aren't new, like brand spanking new units or anything. However, they're not by any means in bad condition. Kitchens are pretty decent. These are all like very like standard, like quite affordable homes, but there is obviously room for you to improve them. And to be honest, I feel like I selected like the worst looking unit. But this is also like, again, people live in these properties. This guy obviously has, mess going on. But all the tenant, they do have rent rolls that really show that they are all paying their rent, and these are Section 8. 5 out of 7 of these tenants are under Section 8 tenancies. Okay, now let me see what else I can show here. They have these ceilings over here, not a big deal. These are like these actually are pretty decent in terms of like being able to access any electric or anything that's behind it. This unit does seem to look a little bit better in terms of like the condition of the floors and anything. But for the most part, you can kind of tell that these units, if even if you just gave them a paint job, they would look really like quite amazing. Minor wear and tear on things like the porch area over here. Let's see what else we got. Windows were in good condition. Like overall, our contractor that went in estimated that this property would need maybe something like $7,000 worth of work. I gotta pay more attention to letting people into the rooms. $7,000 worth of work. So the thing about this is that this property as it is, let me see if I can pull up the deal check for this again. Deal check. Let's see if we can pull this up. And by the way, guys, if you don't know how to use deal check, I do highly recommend it as a platform to use. It's very good. It's a very easy way to just get a quick snap assessment view of the property. Hang on, because I'm bad at multitasking. Okay, let me just edit this really quickly because last time we looked at this, the purchase costs. Okay, 490,000. 30%. Where's the rent rolls? Hmm. Oops, not rental comps. Rent. Okay, yeah, we made these like true rent. So okay, so here let's look at this really quickly before I actually like change this. As it is, the cash flow on this property would be just $256. Okay, and we've calculated everything like vacancy. We've calculated utilities to be accurate. Like everything is calculated. So true cost on this would actually be true cash flow on this would be about $265 based on the current rent roll. Okay, now as you improve things, and this is where this actually becomes an attractive project, is that once you improve things over here to let's just say 14, let's just make them all 1450. Right? And the whole thing about this is that we're not actually talking about if this property can get up to 1450 because the truth is this property will get up to 1450 because there is a need for these 3 bedroom type units. And these type of properties, honestly, when it comes to Section 8 tenancies, you will be able to find them. And the great thing about this is that when you actually get the skipped out, when you get the property performing at this level, the cash flow will now become $2,897. Now you can increase your expenses because you have to spend a little bit of money here in order to make that happen. You can increase your expenses, but by my calculation, this property should cash flow by at least around $2,000 a month. Now, how much do you need to make this happen? You need $251,000, including renovations. Is that worth it? It definitely meets the 1% rule. But the thing is that you can actually refinance a big chunk of your money out of that too. And because it's a commercial property, your financing options are considerably more flexible. I do see some questions popping up, so let me actually check these out really quick. Okay, for C-class neighborhoods, what is the, by the way, occupancy rate? Actually, I'll talk about that right now. Occupancy, because this is also a C-class neighborhood. So this property, let me see to let people in here. Okay, let's look at the actual area of this property for a second here. 4234 West 24th. Okay, so let's look at the area. So this is Old Brooklyn, and hang on, guys. Okay, this is Old Brooklyn. This is considered a C-type neighborhood. Okay, now one of the things is that we do like to invest generally in the west side of Cleveland. So even like south is okay, but generally southwest. And as you start to approach neighborhoods that start to border onto suburb areas, we find that that's actually the sweet spot. A lot of C-class neighborhoods over here. And if you are looking for something to help you decide on what the neighborhood classes actually are, I would just go to Google and do a quick Google search and just type in Cleveland uh, property, or sorry, neighborhood, neighborhood class, right? Cleveland neighborhood class, go over here and you can pull up something like this. I believe this is the exact one that we use over here. And if you just click on it, it kind of has the C shape going on. You can look at it. This I find to be actually quite accurate. But you see over here, as you slice down the center, you look on the left, it's a lot of green going on. If you see over here on the top, it has like a scale and it's going to be indicating to you what type of neighborhood they think this is. Anything that starts to go into the purple, you want to veer a little bit away from. Now, it's not to say that you can't make any money by working on properties that are in these areas. It's just trying to illustrate that you kind of want to be a little bit more cognizant of the properties that you're buying if you're buying in this C cup over right here. Okay. But generally in the West, you're going to be paying a little bit more, but you're finding definitely a lot more management stability. Okay. Uh, all right. How does Section 8 work? Is there an application process to be approved? Yes. Okay, so Section 8, if you want to get them approved, and that's why it's a big deal for us that this property over here, where am I? That's why it's a big deal for us that this property, it's already Section 8 approved. They have Section 8 vouchers. And the thing about that is that this property, they've already done all the improvements. So if you want to apply for Section 8 tenancies, you have to basically you make your application and then they're going to come in and they're going to assess the property. They might ask you to add a few things in, change things. Again, make sure that the place is up to their code. Okay, and it's not necessarily going to take a lot. If you essentially nearly renovate a place, where we find that this really works well is actually when you're buying properties in considerably more challenging neighborhoods, like C minus and under, and you're buying properties like very cheap. Okay. And by the way, guys, this property here that we're working on is coming out to like what is it? $70,000 a unit. $70,000 a unit is roughly what it's coming out to, I believe, right? 70 times 7 times 7, yeah, 490,000, right? And if you buy properties that are in C minus and below, and you're buying properties, let's say, that are around $100,000, if you're able to push $1,400 in rents, you are hitting that 1.5% rule. Where, to be honest, in Cleveland, we do feel that if you want to be aggressive about it, you ought to be hitting a 2% rule. Okay. All right. Uh, Let me see something for you here. Any questions about that while I look something up here? Okay, and while we're doing that, I'm going to drop this link over here. Remember, guys, if any of you is interested, I'll put this here. If any of you wants to know more about what it is that we're doing, how we do it, or you want to know more about how we are investing in the US and you have any questions, I dropped this link over here. You can check it out. Basically, it's about how we get into our US market and what it is that we offer and how it is that we can help you make money doing US real estate. So if any of you has any further questions, do click on that, fill out the form, and we'll be going through there, okay? All right, let's keep going. So Section 8, yes, you need to be approved like that, okay? And you go through a bit of a process. 7 Gs for each unit or all together. $7,000 was for basic maintenance to all the property, anything that's essentially considered essential. He took some pictures of some areas that needed to be done, like maybe with the floor, any cement work that needed to be done. There was nothing urgent that needed to be done. If you want to really drastically improve all these units, we would actually recommend going for budget, sorry, probably a little bit more in the realm of like $10,000 per unit if you want to be aggressive. I'm talking about really newly renovated. But the thing about Section 8 tenancies is that you don't actually need to go that hard with your renovations. You can pick up a property like this and just add in what they actually need. Like I would be going as so far as to add in maybe laundry. I would go so far as to add in, well, I would definitely add in that closet, but I would essentially just make sure that the place meets Section 8 housing criteria rather than making it pretty, because being pretty is not really part of their criteria. I would definitely cater to the audience. And while this is in a good neighborhood, like Old Brooklyn is not by any means the ghetto or the hood. It's a good area. It's definitely the working class area of Cleveland. I would not renovate beyond that area, especially if you're targeting Section 8, right? You can if you wanted to hit those rents, you would if you wanted to rent it for $1,400 per unit, you would have to spend $10,000 per unit and renovate them considerably. But as it is, I think you can get away with just spending like $3,000 a unit or something like that. So, okay. An example for the 20 to 50K properties you spoke about at the beginning. Okay, yes, I will. Got this one fly here, and it's driving me nuts. What's your view on the impact of Section 8 norms under Trump? Okay, just so you know, really quickly, Section 8 norms under Trump. So then there's these headlines going around about how they are going to be getting rid of government controlled Section 8. But what they really mean by that is they're just not going to govern it at the top level. They're going to pass that responsibility on to the state. So every state. So right now, Section 8 has more national wide regulation, whereas what they're planning on doing is they're going to release that regulation to be state dependent. So every state is going to decide how they want to do that. It doesn't mean it's going to go away. Okay. Let me show you an example of some of those other like more affordable options. Section 8, 3-bed, 1468. And for what I thought we would get this amount if landlord pay all utilities. Remove 150 to 200. I don't, okay, so uh Letitia, I do not understand your question. If you don't mind elaborating on it, that would be great. Are you aware of the proposed change on the Trump Section 8 is major? Yeah, so I think I just addressed that. But again, honestly, they talk about these things. I would wait till it develops a little bit further. But like I said, as it stands, I believe that the adjustments that they're going to make is basically whether it's government or whether it's going to be state that's regulating it. Okay. Now, from this, we're going to shift because basically this is going to be a very exciting project. If anybody's interested in projects like this one, basically do get in touch with us because these type of projects we are trying to get into these more and more. And whether or not you're looking to buy something like this in partnership or you want to be purchasing something like this on your own, this is actually in terms of accessibility on a project like this. Where's that deal? Check. In terms of accessibility on a project like this I would consider to be a mid-tier. So it's not, the thing about this is that at $490,000, you essentially your buying cost is under $200,000. Okay. Your ability to buy this is under $200,000 and you can stretch this to push your $2,600 cash flow. The thing about that is if you buy a property like this, it's big enough to partner on with certain types of real estate investors, but it's actually right at the size where there's a lot of there's a lot of real estate investors that can afford this. So it's at the cusp of affordability for a lot of people. Okay, so if you're interested in these type of projects, do get in touch with us because we're finding this to be a bit of a sweet spot in terms of value, and we are digging in to find more deals like this. Okay, let's talk about some of the really affordable deals. I'm actually going to post this one in our private group today, and I will also be posting. I'm going to try to post more deals like this because this one came a little bit late to us, but I will be posting this in our private group, and I do think this one's going to fly because it's going to be a very affordable deal. But before I do, I'm going to also remind people that if anybody is interested in being a part of our community and joining and getting involved in some of our off-market deals, I'm going to drop the off-market deals group in the chat right now. So click on the link and then you can join our chat. And basically, anything that any of the deals that we get and we are that we think is appropriate for the group, we're going to be putting them in here. So we try to keep this relatively active as much as possible. There's a discussion board in there, and there's a few other things so that if there's anything there that strikes your fancy, you can get in touch with us, talk about it, and we'll see whether or not we can help you into buying off-market properties. But remember, if you want to buy one of these properties, you have to be ready. It's not some of those things where like you can just say, oh yeah, I'm interested, and then fumble around. It's going to be gone by the time you finish fumbling around. You need to be prepared, have everything set up, and understand how to buy it. And again, that's what we're here to help you do, is really break into this market. But this is a good place to look at these deals and see what it is that you would be getting yourself into if you decide that you want to actually buy these properties. Now, I'm dancing around it too much. Let's talk about that deal. So this is it. Okay, let me see the deal check. This is it. Okay, so we happen to come across this random property in Alabama. All right, now this property is actually, you're going to need a whopping $14,000 to buy this property. Why? Because this is a sub two deal. So if any of you have heard about sub two deals, you know, the infamous Pace Morby talks about them a lot, but basically it's the assumption of another mortgage. So we do also talk a little bit about creative financing deals where it's all about how you acquire them. Now, if anybody's interested to know how people in our community or even other people that we engage, like wholesalers, will come across these deals, they are looking for off-market properties. And the thing I love about the US market is that you have a lot of opportunity to find deals in all kinds of creative ways. And off-market deals are quite abundant over there. The reason why they were able to negotiate something like this is because wholesaler went straight to buyer and talked to them about selling the property. And this person essentially was found to be wanting out of the property because they weren't able to make payments. They're falling behind on the bills, and they just wanted to walk away with about $10,000. So they're going to walk away with about $10,000 on this project, and they are going to assign their mortgage. So let's look at what their mortgage is. Their mortgage is $99,450. They're selling the property for about this much, and then there's some other fees. So they're taking $10,000 and they're assigning, excuse me, they are assigning their mortgage. And the mortgage that they're assigning is essentially they're taking it at, what's the interest rate here? Let me see. It's low. What does it say here? Hang on, I've got too many windows open. Covering. 2.8%, it's right here. So this mortgage is at 2.8%. Now, wouldn't you love to get a mortgage at 2.8%? Actually, tell me, I want to see how many people are listening, and I want to make sure I'm not losing people. Push one if you would be interested in buying a property. If you type one, if that sounds appealing to you, and type two if you're not listening. Okay, so everybody's down. So how can you get these deals? Well, wholesaling is like a great way to find these deals and basically negotiating sub two type deals. Because there's people out there who, you know, the thing about the American mortgages is that you lock in and you're able to pick up these mortgages at like you're locking people locked in for 25-year mortgages, like, you know, however long ago, and they have like great interest rates. Right. So what is people doing with it? Some of these people are still being affected by the economy and they're not able to afford these properties. So what is it that they do? Well, if they are forced to sell, this is something they might be finding themselves doing. So these type of properties, thing about these is that this property here, it's going to cash flow $502 a month, and you need a whopping $14,000 in order to do this. It needs a little bit of rehab. Now, the thing about this right now, this just came in. We don't have any pictures on it, but we run the numbers, and this is something that is actually very important to be able to use over here. But we run the numbers on a deal like this, and at $110,000, while calculating a sub two financing deal, we basically came up with these. We basically come up with the numbers, and you're able to cash flow $500 a month. Now, it doesn't really matter how you cut this. That's $6,000 a year in profits. You're going to make your money back in 2 years. Okay, these deals don't come along every day. Okay, now, while these things are great when they do come along, you basically have to be prepared to buy them. Now, does this mean this is the type of deal that you have to wait for? No, you can also look for other let's call them somewhat more traditional deals. This, for example, is one that I believe we recently were advertising because we crunched the numbers on these and also found it to be a pretty good deal. Let's take a look at this. By the way, anybody have any questions about the one I just showed you? Drop it in the chat. $10,000 for a property, that's your barrier of entry, and you're making money on it. Unlike in Canada, you do what the CMHC financing, 5% down on the property. Yes, you can buy it with 10 or $15,000, but that 10 or $15,000, you lose it. How easy is it to rent it out? Again, you're gonna look at the market. So we already did an analysis of the area, and there are rental properties that are moving. And we did contact a few property managers as part of our due diligence, and we are finding that there is about a 2 to 3 month tenant placement period. That is the general consensus on properties that are, single family homes. So again, the whole thing about it is that especially if you're gearing towards a Section 8 type tenancy, you can do quite well with these. Could you please resend the WhatsApp link to my chat? Okay. Let me send that to you. Here you go. Okay. All right, now properties like this. 3234 West 119th. Okay, 3234 West, oops, West 119th. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, so this, I believe this to be this is a duplex property. I believe it's $145,000. That's the asking. And again, a property like this, the cash flow on it. Let me see what's the cash flow on this. Let's go to the deal check. Here, I think, which one is this? Yeah, okay, so $145,000 with this one's turnkey, no rehab needed. So no rehab needed on this property. Let's take a look at this again. No rehab needed on this property. As you can see, it's actually in very good condition. And this type of property, if you look at it, like how much can something like this rent for? Well, we did an analysis on it. A property like this will rent for, I should say. Let me see what we popped in here. Rents on a property like this will go for $1,900. Okay. Now, what is this? How do we know to go for $1,900? This is a 4 bed, 2 bath. So this is 4-2. So 2 bed, 2 bath. Even if you went for Section 8, you're going to be doing around that. You're going to be doing a little better than that. But even through standard tenancies, you will be renting it for about $900 to $1,000. Right? And again, that's just because there's not a lot of good availability of units that are going to be like this, that are simply like pretty decently renovated, in good condition, clean. And also, you're buying a property vacant, so you can have a clean slate and actually pick and choose the tenants that you want to put into a unit like this. Now, that, in my opinion, is really great. You see, guys, we talked a little bit about being able to find, deals in Canada and how they seem so unreasonable. And what I'm really trying to show you here is that no matter left, right, and center, we're able to find good deals in the US, in Cleveland specifically. I mean, I know one of those like, okay, if I'm sitting on $10,000 and I don't want to buy a Honda Civic and I want to buy a house instead, can I actually do that? And the answer to that is yes, you can. But if you want to actually buy something that is a little bit more accessible, or you don't want to have to wait around for deals like that to keep on coming, there's plenty of deals that you can make sense with and things like this. Because like I said, guys, this deal, you need $47,000 in total in order to buy this property, and it will cash flow $486 a month. Now, this is, in my opinion, a much more reliable property. It's a duplex. You have two tenants. Unlike a single family home, if your tenant leaves or causes problems to it, you don't want to be stuck. But in a property like this, you have a little bit more diversification. And as rents increase, your earnings actually go up and stack over a period of time. How do you find tenants? I mean, you find tenants the way everybody would. I mean, so Sony, how do you find tenants? You find tenants by getting yourself a good leasing agent, a property manager, and you get them to find tenants for you. Um, we don't have to make that more complicated than that. This one has been on the market for 131 days. Is there a catch? Great question. I love the question of what's the catch. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a sec. Let me just read quickly in case any of these other questions takes more time. And the right team, property managers, do you guys offer help with that? Well, we do vet property managers, although I do always say that we want you to find property managers that you're comfortable with, okay? People that you like the way that they work. Because again, people that I speak to and I'm happy with the way they work might not necessarily be the same fit for you. Same thing goes for contractors. My understanding of construction, I consider it to be relatively deep. And so I can fill in a lot of the gaps. I don't need administration in my contractors. So I prefer the guys who don't know how to text and don't know how to. I just want them to know how to send me videos and pictures. That's it. I don't need them to know how to write a nice report. But some people need that. So again, it depends on who it is you're working with. Um, is the purchasing cost on deal check the same as the closing cost? Yeah. So let me just double check before. Purchasing cost. Yeah, so this is going to be, and let me just make sure, just now you're making me doubt myself. Yeah, so there's no closing cost here. So purchasing cost, yes, that's everything else. So basically anything else that we would need to pay. Guys, we do find that typically your closing costs on a property are going to be something in around $3,000 to $5,000. Okay. All right, we're approaching the end. So, guys, if you have any questions you want to ask, go do that pretty soon. I'm going to talk about the question the gentleman had earlier. And again, if you want to do this and you want to know more, click on the link, connect with us, because I do want to get in touch with you and see how we can answer questions you have and help you out with your real estate investing journey. And most importantly, getting into it through an avenue like the US. Okay, so what's the catch? So here's the thing, and I get this question all the time from people, whether it's through social media or events or even sessions like this. What is the catch on something like this? I do want to point something out, and this isn't to get overly philosophical, but the thing is that when you've been in an unhealthy market for so long, and you start to see something, whether it's for the first time or whatever, that is good, and then your question is, what's wrong with it? It's not to sound a certain way, but it's almost somebody else will look at you who's from that market and say, "What's wrong with you?" Because properties were not supposed to in healthy markets be so unreasonable, right? And so when something actually it seems sensible, and we ask the question like, "What's wrong with it?" There's nothing wrong with being cautious and being aware that there could be some issues. You should definitely look at it. But I get the question so much, and the reason why I wanted to say it like this is because I get this question so often because even on some of the deals that we were recently working on, when we look at them, we can tell when a deal is good now. And there is definitely a lot of concern with things that are unfamiliar. Like I get certain ones seem reasonable, actually, like Section 8, it makes sense, like how does it work? Am I going to be able to get it? And I know from experience now that the hardest part is actually having to go through the motion of getting the tenant out and then getting the place fixed up for Section 8. And that's why I get really excited when I find a project that, like the one I showed you in the beginning, that is already Section 8 approved, right? To me, that's amazing. So when you have to know what you're concerned about, like what's the catch is such a big and broad question, and the catch could be anything. But very often, as Canadians, I feel looking at from the outside in on a market like this, it's just hard for us to believe that something can actually work like that. Now, not saying to take a leap of faith, really. Like you don't have to do that. I'm just saying, um, if you're worried about a catch, try to worry about something specific. Okay, what is the catch, or what is it is very broad. Can you share details about financing? Yeah, okay. No, I'll get into that. Yeah. So what was my punchline of that? Yeah, okay. My punchline of that is basically it feels sometimes when I'm talking to people, it's almost like they got out of a bad relationship and then they were with somebody who was totally toxic, and then they met somebody who was healthy, and then they think there's something wrong with that person, right? It's just people come along with a lot of baggage. And the real estate market in Canada seems to be that ex-girlfriend that makes us a little bit wary and cautious, okay? That's my punchline. I thought it was a good parallel. And I'm not going to ask you guys to type one if you thought that was good or not. Let's talk this over. Okay, can you share details about financing? How much do you need to put down percentage wise? 30% down is generally what you're going to need. Do you need to incorporate or do you buy in your own name? You need to incorporate. You need to get yourself set up with a corporate structure. You need to talk to a cross-border accountant, and they're gonna they're gonna sort you out. We can help you with how you get that set up. It's good to strategize about this and figure out exactly what type of market you're going to be going into. Also, what type of money you want to be bringing in and spending, and how you're able to really navigate your own personal tax situation. Like if for people who are in our community, we do like to dive into the nitty gritty of your financials, largely to understand how you're going to make that work. Okay, because some people have different strategies. Like some people are coming in with very little capital, other people are trying to sell properties off and they need to deploy capital in the US and then they want to be bringing earnings back slowly. So they're really trying to churn their funds. And that in itself is going to need a little bit of a strategic uh, a strategic session, let's say, in order to figure that out. All right. What is the typical profit range on, say, a 3-month flip? Oh, that's good. Oh my God, I want to show you this. Okay, let me see if I can show you guys this. This is like my favorite thing to do is randomly looking at how much money other people are making so I can feel bad about how much money I'd be making in Canada flipping houses. 158, guys. 158. We're almost there. We're almost out of time together today. Okay, so two types of flips that we can look at, like say pretty much like flips in the hood and then flips in good areas. Okay. Flips in the hood are easy to spot. So I'm going to look at one quickly there. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to look somewhere over here. And all I'm going to do here, and this is how we're going to look, is we're going to look at properties here. We're going to click on this. We're going to go sold 3 months. Let's look at people who have sold properties in the last 3 months. I'm going to draw this line over here. Let's look at people who made money. Bam, layout, split, sold, high. And now we're going to look for properties that look like they were flipped. Oops. No, I started low to high. Let's start high to low. Okay. So the question was, what type of money can people make flipping houses? Is this a flip? It looks like a flip. Let's take a look at it. Let's look at this. Is this a flip? Yes, it looks like a flip. Let's take a look at it. Let's keep going. Is this a flip? It's a 6-bed, 3-bath. This might be a flip. Let's take a look at it. All right. So this house, here's how you know how much money people are making. Okay. This is the sold price. Somebody bought it for in September 13th, 2024, on the MLS. So this wouldn't be a great deal, but they bought it for $150,000 and they sold it for $259,000. This is a flip. Now, remember what I told you? You can gut and flip a house for $60,000. You can do a little bit more for like $70,000. Now, from 150 to 259, if somebody flipped a house for about $60,000, I don't know what the condition was, but I know they're not spending more than the $60,000 on the $70,000 on this. That means that they would have made about, after realtor fees and maybe some carrying costs, maybe like this one, to be honest, doesn't look that great to me. So they made maybe like $30,000 in profits here. But again, the property might have not been in that bad condition if they bought it for $150,000. Yeah, for something like this, I mean, they did a pretty darn good job to this property. Yeah, they did some good work to this property. So how much money did they make? I'd say this is on the lower end of what somebody should make on the flip. But here, let's look at this for a second. Okay. Again, the question was, how much is somebody going to make on a 3 month flip? Yes, I can, but I need to go through my log. Okay, so Vivek is asking, can you look up previous listings? So we have access through like a realtor. I'm not able to access it on this computer. But yes, you can look that. You will be able to look that up. This property, let me see here. Okay, this isn't correct. There's no way this is correct. I don't believe this. So this is saying that the last time this property sold was in 2004. I don't believe that. So there's something I'm going to show you how to do here if you don't know already, but we're going to do Cleveland property search. And we're going to go over here to real property information under the county record, and we're going to take a look at it. I think this one's it. Let me see. Nope, this one's it. Yes, maybe. Okay, Kuya here. Okay, so we're gonna do this. This was the property I believe we're wondering about. Is it? No, this isn't it. Guys, I'm over time. I'm over time. This is it. 332,000. Was this the one? Okay, so look, this one they're saying that this property sold in 2004. I don't believe that. That's usually incorrect. This is gonna not make me look good if this is not correct. But I'm gonna go here and I'm just gonna search this address up and see what it says. But I bet you I would bet on this. I hope I'm betting right. Yes. So the last transfer date. So you see, basically here, this is okay. So this went through some type of auction. Okay, so because this went through some type of auction and they're not listing the price here, you can go through another avenue to see how much they sold. Usually you'd be able to see how much they bought it for over here, but you can see that this is supposed to show how much this property actually sold for, but you can't see it here because this seems to have gone through quite a lot. Okay, but normally you would go here, but basically all we're trying to see here is that these guys definitely bought this property for a lot less. It's just I'm not able to now show you how much money they made because I'd have to go through a deeper search that we don't have time for. But let me see if I can get to the point of this and show you really like, did somebody actually make any money on any of these? Okay, here you go. Easy. September 6th, somebody bought this for $40,000 and then sold it for $166,000. Okay, no matter how you slice this person, let's see what they did here. And let's see whether they even did in-depth renovations. Okay, when you're doing an apartment, unlike a house, you can do an extensive renovation for about 35 to $40,000 on the high side. Okay, and these guys did not do an extensive renovation, as you can see. It looks like they probably cleaned the place up, drywall, put some of these like cheaper Amazon lights. They didn't even fix the ceilings or anything like that. Painted the place. They focused on the bathroom, a slight small kitchen, and maybe some utility. But their best friend here is paint. So you can see what it is that they did here. So the question is, how much money do you think they made on the property like this? I would estimate that they probably spent about 25 to $30,000 per unit, if that, adding going up to $60,000. So they bought it for 40, they're in at 60, they sold it for 66,000. They're doing about 50% on their money. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Vivek. No, who asked the question? Raymond. I hope that answered your question. If I have a private trust in the USA with an EIN number and bank account, but a different state, can I buy in your area? I mean, you have your EIN number and you have a bank account, a US bank account. Yeah, you can buy. Can you look at previous listings? How do you work with investors? How do we work with investors? Man, Gus, were you not here for like most of the presentation? Pretty much everything we're doing, we do more intimately. Okay. So they spent 40K in total for each unit. No, Vivek. So they bought this house, a duplex for 40,000. I'm estimating based on this knowing renovation numbers that they spent 60, sorry, yeah, about $60,000. So 40 plus 60 is 100, and they sold it for 166. You less your expenses, you're making about $50,000, $40,000, right? So you're about 50% on your money. Okay, I think that makes sense. What is the time in the market of properties after you renovate to sell? Honestly, you have to price it right. Okay, you have to price it right. But you can see here exactly what happened. They listed February, sold March. Okay, listed February, sold March. Okay, so that gives you an idea for this property, at least how long it took. What's the typical profit range on a 3 month flip? I think we answered that. Yes, we did answer that. Okay, great. Okay, guys, 207. That's pretty much it. Again, I'm going to encourage you very much to make sure. I'm actually going for anybody who didn't manage to join the WhatsApp group. I'm going to drop that again right here. Do join the WhatsApp group if you haven't already, where we post off-market deals that we do believe will be of interest to the community. I'm going to post that right here. And again, for those of you who are interested in getting involved with us and want to know more about how it is we operate and how we can help you bridge into the US market, because honestly, guys, like Canadian market is so bad right now. Like it's there's very few ways to make money in the Canadian market I find right now, and you have to be awfully creative. And one of the things I keep on saying is that you should not have to be so resourceful in order to make things work basically in a market like this. It really is a symptom of a bigger problem, I believe. And if you want to invest in a healthy market, look at where the rents actually make sense. So think about rents making sense that I keep on telling people is that rents largely dictate property values, especially for realtors who go out there and they just list properties. They list properties and they talk about, oh, this property's got to be worth X, Y, Z amount. It's like they're not, as real estate investors, we're not always calculating cap rate on residential properties because that's largely for performance properties, which is commercial properties. But cap rate should still be used as a baseline indicator. If your property is bringing in $4,000 a month in Canada, how much is that going to be worth? And whatever the cap rate is for that city, that is roughly what you need to be calculating on. If you don't know what cap rate is, as I'm throwing that word around, do a quick Google search, but it's basically a formula that you use to calculate how much properties should be worth based on the income and the net operating expenses. Yeah. Okay. So look it up, but basically in many markets in the US, this stuff does make sense. And just by shifting my portfolio from Canada to the US, I am massively increasing my rental income. And I think everybody should be doing this. Diversify a little bit, guys. Don't like wait for Canada to just fix itself. I hope you guys make the right moves. Otherwise, I hope you guys find value out of this, and I hope to see you guys later. Take it easy. Have a good night.